SQL interview questions and answers 111 to 120. Question number 111. Compare SQL and PL/SQL. SQL and PL/SQL are both programming languages used to work with relational databases, but they have some fundamental differences. SQL is a declarative language used to create, maintain, and retrieve data from a database. It is primarily used to query and manipulate data. In contrast, PL/SQL is a procedural language that adds programming constructs to SQL, enabling developers to write programs that include loops, conditional statements, and exception handling. PL/SQL is an extension of SQL and runs inside a database, while SQL is executed by a database engine. Some of the differences between SQL and PL/SQL are summarized below. Definition: SQL is a declarative database language used to create, maintain, retrieve data from a database, while PL/SQL is a procedural programming language that extends SQL. Purpose: SQL is primarily used for data manipulation and retrieval, while PL/SQL is used for developing database applications and adding programming constructs to SQL. Syntax: SQL is a declarative language, meaning that developers specify what they want to accomplish and the database engine determines how to do it. PL/SQL is a procedural language that includes programming constructs such as loops, conditional statements, exception handling, allowing developers to specify the how. Execution: SQL statements are executed one at a time by database engine, while PL/SQL is executed as a block. In summary, SQL and PL/SQL are both programming languages used in relational databases, but they differ in their purpose, syntax, and execution. SQL is used for data manipulation and retrieval, while PL/SQL is used for developing database applications and includes programming constructs such as loops and conditional statements. While SQL is a declarative language, PL/SQL is a procedural language that includes programming constructs. What is BCP? When is it used? BCP stands for Business Continuity Planning. BCP. It is process of creating strategies and systems that can help an organization to continue its essential operations following a disruptive incident that may occur in future. BCP is used by organizations to ensure that they can continue delivering products or services at predefined acceptable levels after a disruptive event. Such events may include natural disasters, cyber attacks, pandemics, power outage, or any other incident that could disrupt an organization's normal operations. BCP involves various elements such as risk assessment, business impact analysis, business continuity strategies and solutions, and the development of a business continuity plan. The process of developing a BCP aims to help organizations minimize the impact of disruptive events and to ensure that they can maintain delivery of critical services to their customer or clients. A BCP plan is also important in helping an organization to recover more quickly and effectively after a disruptive event, reducing the overall downtime and financial losses.
In SQL, BCP stands for Bulk Copy Program. It is a command line utility provided by Microsoft SQL Server that allows you to import and export large amount of data between SQL Server databases and external files. The BCP utility supports both importing data from SQL Server tables and exporting data from SQL Server tables to files. It can handle various files formats such as text files, comma-separated values files, and XML files.
Question number 113. When is the update statistics command used? According to provided, the update statistics command is used in Microsoft SQL Server to update the query optimization statistics on an indexed view or a table view to improve the query plan and optimize query performance. This command is used to update statistics of tables and indexed views, which provide the SQL Server query optimizer with information about the distribution of data in a column or columns of a table or indexed view. The query optimizer uses this information to estimate the cardinality or number of rows returned by a query operator and to choose an appropriate query plan. To update the statistics of a table or an indexed view, one can use the sp_update stats stored procedure or update statistics properties dialog box in SQL Server Management Studio. The update statistics command is typically used in situations where the user needs to improve the query performance of a particular query beyond what the query optimizer can provide by default, or when there is significant change in the data distribution, such as after large data loads or index rebuilds. Question number 114. Explain the steps needed to create scheduled jobs. To create a scheduled job in SQL Server, the following steps can be followed. First, open SQL Server Management Studio. In the Object Explorer pane, expand the SQL Server agent node, right-click the job folder and select New Job from the context menu. In the New Job dialog box, enter name for the job, then select owner and category for the job. On the steps page, click New to create a new job. Enter a name for the job step, select the type of job step, then specify the command to be executed by the job step. On the schedules page, click New to create a new schedule. Enter a name for schedule and configure the schedule's properties such as frequency and start time. Click OK to save the job and schedule. Alternatively, an existing job can be scheduled by right-clicking the job in the Object Explorer, selecting Properties, navigating to Schedules page, and then configuring a new schedule for the job. Question number 115. 1. Are we going to use truncate and delete? In SQL, both truncate and delete commands are used to remove data from a table, but they have some key differences that makes them appropriate for different use. The delete command in data manipulation DML command that removes specific rows from a table. In contrast, truncate table is data definition language, that is DDL command, that removes all the data from a table without removing the table structure. We use the delete command when we want to remove specific rows from a table based on a given condition or set of conditions. It is useful in situations where we need to delete a small number of rows, especially when we want to retain the table structure, such as triggers, constraint indexes, and also when we need to log the deletion operations. Truncate table is usually faster than delete command as it removes all the rows from the table at once. It is particularly useful when we want to remove all the data from a large table without removing the table structure, such as in situations where we need to remove all test data before deploying to production. However, it cannot be used to remove specific rows, and once it is executed, the data cannot be rolled back as it's a DDL command and does not require a commit to make the change permanent. Finally, the drop table command is also the DDL command that deletes the table and all its data from database. It should be used with caution since it permanently removes the table and all its data from database. In summary, we use delete command to remove specific rows from a table while retaining its structure, truncate table to remove all data from a table without removing the table structure, and drop table to delete the table and all its data from database. Question number 116. Explain correlated query work. A correlated subquery in SQL is a subquery that is executed multiple times, once for each record or row returned by the outer query. It is called correlated because the inner query uses information obtained from outer query, typically from a table referenced in the outer query. In other words, the outer query returns a table with multiple rows and the inner query runs once for each of those rows. The main difference between SQL correlated subquery and a simple subquery is that the SQL correlated subquery reference columns from the table of the outer query. To identify a correlated subquery, just look for these kinds of references. If you find a reference to a table or column from the outer query, then the subquery is correlated. A correlated subquery is used when results of subquery needs to be based on values of current row of outer query. For example, we might want to find all employees who earned higher salaries in March 2018 than their average monthly salaries for all previous months. In this case, we can use a SQL correlated subquery that runs once for each employee record returned by outer query and compares the employee's March 2018 salary to their previous average salary. It is essential to note that correlated subqueries can have a significant impact on query performance, especially if the outer query returns a large number of records. This is because the subquery is executed once for each row in the outer query result set. Therefore, it is recommended to avoid correlated subqueries if possible and instead use join conditions or relationships between tables for positive data query questions. However, correlated subqueries may still be necessary to answer certain negative data questions that cannot be addressed using join conditions or relationships between the tables. In summary, a correlated subquery is a type of subquery that uses information obtained from outer query and executed once for each record or row returned by outer query. While it can be useful for answering certain types of data questions, it is essential to be aware of its performance impact and to use it judiciously. Question number 117. When is the explicit cursor used? An explicit cursor is used in Oracle when a specific query or DML data manipulation language statement returns or affects multiple rows and the rows of the result set need to be retrieved one at a time. There are two clear use cases for explicit cursor. The first is when we want to prove for the existence of a record and handle the outcome in the main flow of our code. And the second is when we need to control the exact order of the results. Explicit cursors are used when we need more control over the processing of results, such as when we want to perform operations like updating or deleting specific rows based on certain criteria. Additionally, explicit cursor can be used in cases where we want to fetch a single row at a time from a result set that is too large to fit into memory all at once. In contrast to explicit cursors, implicit cursors are used when a single row query is executed or when a multi-row query is executed but only one row is processed at a time. Explicit cursors are used by default when there is no explicit cursor defined in the code. The cursor for loop statement is used to run a select statement and immediately loop through the rows of result set, and this statement can use either an implicit or explicit cursor. In Oracle 10G onwards, implicit cursors fetch 100 rows at a time. In summary, explicit cursors are used in Oracle when we need more control over the processing of the result set, such as when we want to perform operations like updating or deleting specific rows based on certain criteria, or when we want to fetch a single row at a time from a result set that is too large to fit into memory at once. Implicit cursors, on the other hand, are used when a single row query is executed or when a multi-row query is executed but only one row is processed at a time. Question number 118. Find what is wrong in this query. It seems that there are various tools and techniques available to find what is wrong with a SQL query. One option is to use an outline SQL syntax checker such as Ever SQL Validator or Coder's tool SQL Syntax Checker. These tools allow users to input their SQL query and receive feedback on any syntax errors present in the code. Additionally, Microsoft Power Query provides a list of common errors that users may encounter when working with data, such as type conversion errors or error related to working with nested structure values. Reviewing this list of common errors can be helpful in identifying potential issues with a SQL query. In summary, to find what is wrong with a SQL query, one can utilize online syntax checkers, review a list of common errors, and debug the query step by step by testing individual components of the code. Write syntax for stuff functions in SQL Server. The stuff function is a string function in SQL Server that deletes a portion of a string and then inserts another portion of a string into it at a specified position. Here is the syntax for stuff function. Stuff in bracket character underscore expression start length replace with expression character expression. This is the string that need to be modified. Start. This is integer that represent the starting position of a string that need to be replaced. Length. This is the number of characters that need to be deleted from original string. Replace with expression. This is a new string that will replace the deleted string. Note that if the starting position or length is negative, or if the starting position is larger than length of first string, a null string is returned. Also, if the length of delete is longer than the first string, it is deleted to first character in the first string. An error is raised if the resulting value is larger than maximum supported by return type. Question number 120. What are three ways that dynamic SQL can be executed? According to search result, there are multiple ways to execute dynamic SQL statement, but three common methods are described. Writing a query with parameters using exec using sp underscore execute SQL. In general, dynamic SQL can be executed in different ways based on specific requirement of application. However, the choice of method may depend on the complexity of SQL statement and the frequency of execution. As per Oracle's documentation, it is recommended to use the simplest method available, but if a dynamic SQL statement will be executed, it is better to use a different method like sp underscore execute SQL to avoid repassing for each execution. Overall, the dynamic SQL allows constructing a SQL statement at runtime, which can help to build more flexible and adaptable application. However, it also has some drawbacks such as potential SQL injection attacks and a lack of compile time checking. Thank you.